I really better get started on these electives. I'm going to choose two of the smaller ones. Or it might be that you really want to focus in on one of the electives in particular, such as e-learning or distant learning. So best thing to do is to hold off. Also, you might see, get a better feel for what you actually like and prefer to train in as you go along. So that's the elective form. What you have to do with it is all written on the form. You just have to complete it and send it to student support. So that's all you need to know there. Now, same with these two here. The Australian Institute of Training and Development, what you have is your membership brochure and the membership form. Essentially, it's just there if you want. It's external to open colleges. You do have to pay, I think, $55, and what you get is membership into the AITD, which can be beneficial for looking for jobs, keeping up to date with industry news, things like that. But again, not compulsory, so up to you. Okay, so that's all of the sort of secondary items. Now we're going to jump straight into the study. Now, I don't know how, you probably would have seen recently Michelle had changed the layout of the assessments. So previously what there was two quizzes and two assessments. Now those two portfolio assessments were pretty gigantic, if I'm being honest. They were really, really big assessments. And they could be a bit confusing, certainly when I was doing it. I needed to take my time with it. So what she's done is split it down into four little mini assessments, which I think is a lot better. And now we also only have one student workbook to think about as well. So let's go into the student workbook. Here we are, box 2, first option, 300608 and 3061A, student workbook. Have a click on that. And that's going to download this for you. It's actually a Word document instead of a PDF for some reason. My computer playing up. And I'm just going to open that up as well. You guys can open it up on your side too. Apologies, computer issue. Try this again. Okay, so this is your first study guide, and as you go through this, you'll see lots of things. So you're going to have all of the information you need. Essentially, hi Tandy, welcome. So this is your first time, no problem whatsoever. We were only just getting started on the study side of things. So if you want to just go through, ask any questions as we go along, and at the end, if you still feel a little bit nervous, we'll book in a one-to-one learning support appointment with you, okay? So with the study guides, you've got 100 pages or so here, but that covers everything that you're going to need to know for these first 6 assessments. Okay, there will be times where you have to do some external resourcing, so you might have to go onto different websites, things like that, but there are no textbooks that you'll need to do. Everything you'll need is online. Now, as you go through this, like I say, it's pretty much like an online book. You'll see a couple of learning activities, and those learning activities are basically little self-checks, okay? So they're not compulsory. Your trainers don't grade them. What you do is you have a look at these activities and you say, okay, let me see if I've actually taken in all of this information that I just read, and you just do it for yourself. You can post it to the forums, and other students, other peers can have a look at it and give you the thumbs up or down or whatever it might be, or you can just keep it to yourself. Totally up to you. Okay, aside from that, you'll have case studies. So, for example, there's a running case study as you go through about Valley Tree services. Quite handy, and it means that you can sort of put things in context. Everybody doing this course is in a different situation. Okay, so some of you might already be working in an industry as a nurse, for example, and maybe you're doing this sort of foreign training and assessment because part of your job says that you need to start training other nurses. It might also be that you're changing industry and that you'd like to become a trainer for adults. So if you find it easier to contextualize it or to put it into your own context, this kind of thing is useful. So if you're a nurse, you can use nurses as an example. If you happen to be in horticulture, then this tree example is perfect. As you go through, there's also be some readings, such as web links that they're going to send you to. And really, everything else is quite fair as you go through. That's pretty self-explanatory, so I'm not going to go into too much depth with it. So yeah, again, this is really what you'll do. So if you are free after this webinar and you want to get started, this would be the place to start. Pour yourself a cup of coffee. You can print this out with pen and paper and highlight it if you like. That's what I do. I prefer to work offline and then go back online. Completely up to you. So a question from Tandy, who's asked, how can this be used in the accounting industry? So really any of 100 ways, Tandy. So you could, for example, maybe you work in accounting as an accountant, but your company have asked you, can you train incoming accountants or junior accountants that are coming in, or maybe you're taking on apprentices from university and they want you to have the proper qualifications. So what you could do is create your own case study where it's based in an accountant's firm. The case study is your boss has asked you to train students, and that's where you come in. So really it's just about teaching and training. It's quite generic like that. Okay. So I'm not going to dwell too long on this workbook because it's something that you'll do autonomously and in your own time. So again, I'm just going to leave that down the bottom, or actually close it down for now. And keep asking questions, by the way. It's all the better for everybody. So we're going to go back into open space. And you'll see here the second option in box 2 is activities. So we've got 300608 and 3061A. And this essentially are little mini assessments that I was just talking about, but they put them all in the one spot. Okay, so I'm going to open it up. You're not to be intimidated by this and sort of say, oh God, I don't know what's going on here, because that's the whole point of education and learning. You'll pick up all of this information as you go along. So the idea is, if you want to do these learning activities, and every student is different, you might want to do 1 or 2, you might want to do none at all, and then some students do all of the activities because they find it's beneficial. Really up to you. And all this learning activities sheet is all about is just putting all of the activities in one place. Basically practice. Okay. So this will all make more sense. Okay, hang on 2 seconds. So I just got a message from Sherilyn who said, sorry, the audio keeps cutting out, so I keep missing what you were saying. Is that the same for everybody? Is there still issues with the audio? Okay. So it seems to be just a bit scratchy. Yeah, I know it's not ideal, the audio, so I do apologize for that. It's like I said, under maintenance, but it does seem like the majority of people can hear me, at least, even if it's not a flawless caramel voice I'd like to come out. So it might just be an issue on your side with the computer. So if you maybe just want to give your headphones a plug in and out on your side, what I'll do is I'll just do the same on mine, and hopefully that will work, and we'll get the core across. Just in case, like I say, we'll book in a one-to-one at the end for anybody who feels like they've missed out on anything. Okay, so I'll continue onwards. Again, if there is any issues, just let me know, but I do want to don't want to dwell too long on anyone, because we do have quite a bit of information to get through. But like I say, any issues, do let me know. Okay, so come to close down our learning activities. So like I say, not compulsory, you're just going through that at your own pace and only if you want to. Which brings us in to the third option here in box 2, which is the toolbox. Now the toolbox is one that causes confusion for students all the time. So what I'm just going to say is, to clarify it, it's essentially an additional resource. Okay, so it's a way of finding extra information, and when you're in your study guide, when you're looking through the information, it'll tell you, go into the toolbox to find this out, or check out this link which brings you to the toolbox for this information. my advice is have a look into it and see if it appeals to you, see if it works for you. If not, the internet's there and the internet has information, so don't worry about essentially, like I say, just extra information. So for example, let's say in the quiz you've got a question, you know, what is learning design? You can research it in your study guides, you can go into your toolbox, you can look at the internet, as long as you double checked it to make sure the answer is right, no problem. Okay, so that's the toolbox. The unit glossary is simply a dictionary of all the terms that you might use. So again, it's quite handy, but also for me, I've used this a little bit, but I also use the internet for a lot of this side of things. So for example, you want to know what is an accredited course, and you can go in there and get a definition of it. So quite handy with the quizzes, which I'm going to go into in a moment. But don't be afraid to use your workbook, and don't be afraid to use the internet. Also, the Control F function in your workbook, Control and F together, is a find button, and that's a good way of just quickly getting to the keywords that you need to get to. Okay, I've got a question from Gillian. So Gillian said, I've downloaded assessments, workbooks, activities 4 weeks ago. It looks like some of these have been updated. Should I download all again and check for the latest final versions? So Gillian, that's what I was referring to there at the start with the slight changes that Michelle's made to the assessments. So what they've done is basically split those assessments into 4, and the expectation is that you had until the 19th, or you have until the 19th of February to finish off those first 2 basically as it was. Otherwise, you'd continue with as we are now today. So it depends on whether you've actually submitted any assessments yet. So if you haven't submitted an assessment, you'll just work off what we're going to be covering here today, basically. Does that answer your question? Okay. Yeah, so the deadline, Gillian, is the 19th of February. So that's when you'd have to have all of the assessments done. Now, if you don't have all of them done by 19th of February, if you just have the quizzes done, that's okay. The quizzes will transfer over. But the portfolios are the key. It's only if you've started portfolios, which is the longer assessments. That's the one that you really would be putting your head down for. But if it's just at the quiz stage, that's okay. Okay. So let's push onwards and actually get in here to the assessments. So Dandy, just to clarify there, she's asked 19th of February first assessments are due. No, it's not that the assessments are due, it's just that there is a change in the assessments. So if you were doing the old versions of the assessments, that's when you'd have to have them in the 19th of February. But for anybody who hasn't submitted a portfolio yet, so if you haven't submitted anything, or if you've just submitted a quiz, which I imagine most people, if not all here, are in that boat, it's okay. You just sort of follow what I'm doing here. Okay. So let's go straight into it. So just to clarify, what Dandy and Gillian are talking about is these assessments here, these expired assessments. So you can see the deadline there. You got to Friday 19th of February. It's the older version. The assessments are exactly the same, so all of the work that you might have done if you had stays, it's just been split into a different format, basically, which I'm going to go have a look at now. Okay, so let's actually go straight in and have a look at the quizzes. Okay, so my advice is to, in general, my advice with this course is to have a look at the quizzes first. Even though you're not going to know the answers, go into them and have a look, and that's what we're going to do now. So you'll see that, and you'll see attempt quiz now, unless you've already gone in there to have a look or attempt, and we'll say revisit or continue progress, something like that, I can't remember. So whatever it is, you can go in there. There's no, when you click on that, there's no timer that starts. There's nothing that says, this is your 6th go in here or anything like that. So it's basically an open book test. There's no time, so take your time with it. So this is your first quiz, and it's 10 questions. You do have to get 8 out of 10, so 80%. So good news is that you'll either get a distinction or a distinction. Really, it's up to you now. So as you go through that study guide, you'll have pretty much all of the answers there. But again, from my experience, don't be afraid to use any tricks that you can. So use the internet; it's your friend. That's what real life is all about too. So do so. So it's as simple as just ticking the questions. Responsibility for monitoring an accredited course during its accreditation period lies with whom. So you put whatever you think is the right answer there. Um, you don't have to do the quiz all at once. You can press next, and that'll save the answers that you've done. And if you don't get the 8 out of 10 that you need, don't press. What will happen is you'll get a withheld grade, and that just means that you'll have to go back and just give it a go again. So if you got 7 out of 10, it'll keep all of the correct answers and just give you the 3 you got wrong, and then you just have to revisit those 3 questions. So this is always good to look at first, even before you do the study. Go in, have a look at the kind of questions that are going to be asked, and go from there. Okay, so let's just take a backward step here. And let's go back twice to the browser, and we're back into our open space. And again, your second quiz is a different topic, but it's exactly the same. So it's no problem. It's same quiz now. And you've got the body responsible for endorsing training packages is A, B, C, D, and just go ahead and do it. And at the end, because this is all multi-choice, it means it doesn't get graded by your trainer. It's all automatic. So you'll get a grade straight away at the end, which is nice. So once you've done your study, you can go in there, get your high distinction, pour a glass of champagne, and you're good for the night. So that's where we get started. Okay, and this is where you begin to build an idea. You build a platform of knowledge, and you begin to wrap your head around exactly what you're going to be studying and what you're going to be learning and what you're going to be doing. Let's go back 2 steps on your browser. Now I'm going to go into the portfolio now, I'm going to go to portfolio and we'll have a look at that. But just before I do, I'll take a little 5-second breather just to see if anybody has any questions at this sort of halfway point. Okay, thanks, Andy. Good stuff, Julian. I'm glad. Okay, all sounds good as ever. Don't be afraid to go in there and ask questions as we're going along. Like I say, it's not the easiest of study periods, so it'll be a bit of a wrestle. We'll get through it with all the support that we have in here. So it's all good. So question from Anne, can I confirm that there are 4 core units and how many electives? Absolutely right. So you've got, you're exactly right. So you've got 4 core units and 2 electives. I'm just going to double check whether I say that now. It's been a long day. Yeah, that's right, 4 and 2. No worries at all. Actually, on that note, just before I do go into the portfolio, I haven't actually covered over the support. In fact, I'll come back to the support at the end. It's probably one of the most important things, but I'll keep it at the end because it's nice and light. We've all got our brains working at full pace now. So, just another question here from Sherilyn. Are all our workbooks online, or do we get sent out any textbooks? Sorry, I'm just a bit confused. Don't be sorry at all, Sherilyn. It's a really common question. And the answer is the workbooks are all online, so you don't get sent out any textbooks. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to do everything online. To be perfectly honest, like I say, I've done this course, and I'm a bit old school when it comes to it, despite working for an online college. So I printed off my workbook in Officeworks for $2 or $3, and I went through it with a highlighter and pen. So feel free to do that. Okay, no worries, Sean. So let's go in here. So fourth option down here in the assessments, 31475/03, written assessments. And this is our first portfolio. Now, I am going to cover over, let's drag this over here. I'm just going to dip in here, okay? We're going to just literally go through to see what it looks like. And then what our goals today are going to be at the end is for you guys to start your reading, maybe even start those quizzes, and by the time you get to Mohammed next week, or if it's still too early, you can watch the recorded video. What I'm basically going to do, Mohammed will go through this in detail and give you real hints. And I'm also going to show you some recorded videos in a moment, which will help about these assessments in depth. But with the time that we have today, and considering it's just about navigation and orientation, let's just have a little look into it. So first things first, this is not just your assessment, it's also your answer sheet. So you pop your name in there, you put your student number in there, and I'm sure a couple of you are thinking, "Oop, what's my student number?" You'll see it on your emails, one of those initial emails you got from Open Colleges. I know you get quite a few when you enroll, but it starts with an E and then has about 6 numbers after that. Assessment number is already there for you. So all you've got to do is scroll down the page. These first few pages are just explaining how you submit, which is fine because we're covering that out today. That's giving you an idea of everything you'll be doing for study period 1, which is all of that. We're going to show submission in a second, like I say, so we'll keep on going down and down and down. You can see here that when you're doing these assessments, you've got 2 options. So one, are you working in an RTO? Like I am in Open Colleges, so when I did that, I could use my colleagues, I could use real-life examples, or are you not working in an RTO? And in that case, you've got case studies that you can use. And I suppose a third option that you could use is feel free to make your own case study. Okay, and again, I know this might not make perfect sense to you until you have time to really digest this whole assessment. But for example, I have a student who we're working with. He works in Woolworths, and he created his own case study about training new staff in Woolworths when they came in. So again, you can go through this at your own pace, and you'll get to see it all. So here is the portfolio requirements for this first one. So again, don't freak out when you see all of this. There's quite a bit, but take it bit by bit. You know, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Step 1, there's your case study. Lets you know what it's asking from you. Step 2, what you need to do. Outline a list of questions you would ask a client to determine their training needs. And again, you just go through it like this, step by step by step. And the beautiful thing about all of this is you have a little checklist to make sure you've done everything that's required of you. And better again, you've got these little appendices. Okay, so for everything that it asks, it gives you an appendix so you know what you're doing. If you are like me and you like to see a bit of a template of how it should look at the end, we have a couple of options, and I'm going to go into that in a few moments. But again, this is early days. You get your study done, get the quizzes done, and then also have a look at Mohammed's chat next week or his videos, and this will become more comfortable with you. Okay. So let's say you're working away and you've finished this document, you finished this assessment, you're feeling pretty confident. What you do is you save it, making sure you save it in the right format, and that shows you how to do that at the top of the page. You just do your student number underscore the assessment number, and then what we do is we submit, and that's the best part because you're done and you can celebrate a little bit. So what we'll do is I'm just going to drag this over here. So let's say you've got that document, you've saved it onto a USB or your desktop, wherever it might be. Now it's time to upload it. So you match up the code, 31475/03 is what we were just looking at. So we go down here to the assessment upload section, 31475/03, click on there. That big grey section just tells you how to save it. And then down here, submission drafts, upload files. Then you find that document that you're working on, the assessment. You upload it, it'll ask you if it's all your own work. You say, yes, it is. And then finally, it'll ask you to send for marking, which you do. Okay, and in the same section that we're in now, this is also where you're going to get your grade and your feedback. So within 3 business days, one of your trainers, in this case, it's going to be either Mohammed or Helen, who's going to be grading your paper. And they're going to give you your, hopefully, big, shiny, high distinctions here. And they will also give you a page of feedback, or usually more than a page of feedback. So this feedback really is so beneficial and so useful when you're starting the course. The more of it you take on, the better. So after 3 business days or so, go in here, check the section, have a look at your high distinction, hopefully, and have a look at the feedback. Okay, so that is the portfolio. That's about as complicated as it gets from a technical perspective. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to take, go into each one of these because they're all exactly the same, just with different information, and also you will upload them in the same sort of section like Um, there is one other little document here, which is common mistakes in portfolio assessments. So ignore those codes. I know it says 30060. It's a bit confusing sometimes because I just changed the codes, but that is correct. So common mistakes, I'll just click on it there for you, and you guys can do the same. So it's going to download. Keep that, and you'll see it downloads this PDF for you, which will look a little something like this. There we go. Computer's been a bit slow today. So common mistakes that people make in these portfolios, and there is mistakes, and trust me, like I said, I've done it myself. I've gone through and I've been withheld the first time, even though I've had all the support in here. So don't be afraid of it, and don't be afraid of failing. If you do get a withheld grade, you get at least 3 efforts at it, and then what would happen is you just have a chat with myself or one of my colleagues in learning support, and then we could help you through the feedback just to make sure you get through it. So have a look through that document as well to see the common mistakes. Okay, close that down. So I've got a question here from Gillian, who said, can I use a school as a workplace? I'm a teacher in school, and we offer professional learning and ongoing teacher education. So yes, absolutely, Gillian, that's good. You do have to be teaching adults is the only thing. So rather than you come up with a case study about teaching kids, you perhaps do, let's say, for example, you wanted to train the admin staff and receptionist in customer service. So for example, you might say, I'm going to train you in a certificate 2 in customer service doing one unit specifically. So that's what you could do. And by all means, what I would do is when it comes to your case studies, they're quite important. And if you want sort of to flesh it out a little bit more, this is where your trainers will come in. So actually, let's take this opportunity as a little segue to just go up here to the top right corner of the page. So as a question like that one that Gillian's just asked, I'm sure you've all got your own, your own individual situations and questions for it. So if you don't want to ask them now, by all means, go in here and ask Mohammed. So you've got Michelle and Mohammed, they both work in the office here. And you can just click on that little message there. And what that'll do is create this little box. And in there, you just say, hi, Mohammed, here's my idea for a case study. I work as a teacher at a school, etc., etc. And he'll come back to you and let you know. So Mohammed's a great guy, as is Michelle. So don't ever be shy about contacting them. Helen also is fantastic. She works remotely. She still works as a trainer in the industry. And she's also fantastic. She's going to be grading some of the assessments for you. And ask her questions too. So she's any questions you have for her, don't be shy at all about asking. Student support, that's most of you probably already have had a chat with someone in student support. They're there for essentially everything non-academic. You want to know about, I don't know, you might need an extension, or there's a technical issue, or I don't know, whatever it might be. You can message student support, and you can also call them. They work from 8:30 in the morning until midnight, Monday to Friday, and on the weekends 9 to 5. So you do have tons of support, and I really, really want to keep, really want to put that home that you haven't just paid for the qualification that you're getting here, but also the support that comes with it. And these guys are fantastic, so don't be shy. I've got a question from Michelle. My workplace is not an RTO. Can I still use my workplace? Absolutely, absolutely, no problem at all. I've had students coming in, a florist. She worked as a florist, and she wanted to train in flower design. And we also had a student who worked in Subway Sandwich, and he wanted to learn how to train in sandwich making. And there is actually a qualification for sandwich making, or I think it's actually called sandwich artist these days. So yeah, pretty much anywhere you work is good, or you can use the case study if you prefer. No worries. Okay, so we're almost there, guys. I know quite a lot of information. This will all be recorded and put up if anybody wants to go back, or if you missed anything. I do want to show you just a couple more things which I think you'll find really useful. So, first of all, let's have a look here on right down the bottom of the page. So again, this box 5, in 2 days, that's all going to be what's called grayed out. So that'll just be moved across, and they won't be there for you to see. You'll just have this assessments that we looked at. So don't pay too much attention to box 5 for the moment. Let's go all the way down here to box 6. You got your additional resources. Now this is pretty much exactly what you think it is. You've got case studies, so that's exactly what we were talking about there a moment ago. So let's just click on that. So these are a couple of different case studies that Michelle has created for you. And again, you can either use your own, like a florist, a sandwich maker, a nurse, a teacher, or you can use one of these. And really, it's up to you. Students are probably about 50-50, maybe even sort of 70-30 towards using the case studies provided here, just because it's maybe easier in the short term. But that's where you'll find them if you want to use these case studies. Again, when you're going through the assessments, it'll point you in this direction, so don't worry about not seeing it at the moment. What else have we got? So you've got things like the IPSA YouTube channel, that's the trainers. A couple of examples about training. Blindfold is one of them. Law and Primacy, Australian Core Skills Framework, and then webinar videos, which is quite an important one. So let's click on this. So what we're doing at the moment, all of you guys are in a webinar at the moment, which is actually, funnily enough, one of the assessments later in the course. So these are previous webinars. Both Michelle and Mohammed and Helen, they're all really, really active and constantly providing extra things to help you as you go along. These are just some of the more recent ones. So you can see 5 days ago, this is Mohammed, who did a study period 1 online tutorial. So that's what he'll be covering next Wednesday at the same time at 4 o'clock. But you can also view that now if you like. I'll send you all the invitation, by the way, after this webinar. There's a study period 3 one that was done about 2 weeks ago. TAE Training Talk Fest, which is just a general national TAE. And then what we were looking at a moment ago, the common mistakes in 300601 and 306101. So that's quite useful. We saw a PowerPoint of it a moment ago, but it might be quite handy for you to actually just go in and watch a bit of this before you get started on the portfolios. Again, it won't dwell too long. This is all stuff that you can have a look at your own pace. Let's go back into study period 1 4. And what I want to do is go down here to the very last option on the list. It's your study period 1 news forum. So click on that. Now what we've got here is pretty much all of the information relevant to study period 1 that you've got. And this is pretty handy because in here you're going to see some templates. Now again, with regards to the quizzes, you've got the workbook and you've got the internet as extra resources and you've got your toolbox. These resources that we're looking at now are really more handy when it gets to portfolio. So again, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I want you to be aware of where it is. So what you've got is a couple of posts from Michelle and Mohammed about example RTO learning programs. So again, that was Michelle there a moment ago saying that my workplace isn't an RTO. You might not know what an RTO learning program looks like, and that's what that's all about. That'll show you. Again, we've got those common mistakes. That's just a link there. Aside from that, you've got some handy things, and really I would say to go through this and have a look at your own pace. So one of the parts of the assessment is about unpacking a unit of competency. There's a template for you. Again, we've got some contextualization. So one of the assessments asks you to contextualize your assessment. So for example, if you were doing a case study about nurses, an example of contextualization would be we don't call them customers, we call them patients. So that's as easy as contextualization is, but again, that gives you a good idea there. So really, without going into all of this, it's just handy to have a look at what your trainers are posting and also what your fellow students are posting in response as well. So that is your study period 1 news forum. And there is one last thing I want to cover before we part ways. So pop over here to the left hand side of your screen underneath the navigation. Click on this one here, E0069C social space. And in here, I want you to have a look at the right hand side. And you'll see upcoming events. So there's always, usually on a Thursday, there's going to be some sort of an event. So we've got Study Period 2 online tutorial, Study Period 3 online tutorial, and Talkfest. So every Thursday there's something going on, and now every Wednesday there's going to be something going on as well between ourselves and learning support and Michelle and Mohammed in faculty as well. So let's go back a page, and what I'll do is I'm just going to have a quick flick through my little checklist here to make sure I've covered everything, which will give you guys an opportunity to take a little breather and see if you have any questions for me before we part. It doesn't look like there's any questions coming through, so I'll just give it another 1 or 2 minutes, or just say 1 more minute for any questions. Yeah, Michelle, so technically we can hand in our assessments at any time. Actually, I'm glad you covered that because I haven't even covered time management. That was a good reminder. So yes, this is, yes, so not at the end of the study period, Michelle. So you can put these, and you would and should put your assessments in once you finish them. So you do your quiz, submit, happy days, move on to your second quiz, submit, high distinction, move on. And then written assessments one by one. And that's how you go through it. So yeah, don't have to wait until the end of the study period, nor do you have to wait any specific times, like 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It's whenever you're ready. You've got to keep in mind, of course, that your course is 12 months. I mean, you do have the options of extensions and experiments if needed towards the end, but 12 months is our goal, and even quicker for some students, which means that you've got 2 months per study period. Having said that, study period 1 is lengthy, so 3 months is probably about the time frame that you're looking at if you're looking to get this done in exactly 12 months. Usually students will always start off a little slower until they wrap their head around how it all works. Also maybe getting rid of a couple of cobwebs from not studying in a while. But yeah, that's about the goals. So no problem, Michelle. If you're studying law as well at the moment, yeah, you're going to have quite a hectic year, I imagine. So best of luck with it. But if you ever are studying for time and time management, definitely book in with myself or one of my team here, and we'll go through and create a study period for you. A study timetable for you. And I've just missed a question here from Jennifer. So is there a way to link the social space calendar to my Outlook calendar? Good question, Jennifer. Very, very good question. And it is something I have been trying to do, but at the moment, unfortunately, they don't talk to each other. I know the webinars do, but unfortunately at the moment you would have to do it manually, just popping across each date that you need into your Outlook. So at the moment you do have to just keep an eye on it, but I am working on talking to the IT guys about getting something a little better. No worries. Any other questions, guys? No dramas at all. So I am going to email everybody just after this. I'll email through with a study plan template so you can all use that, either print it off or have it on your desktop, whatever you feel. And also, I'll invite you to Mohammed's webinar next week, and he'll dig into depth about those portfolios. For now, you focus your time on getting through that study material and those quizzes, and that's pretty much it. If ever you need learning support, time management, assessment help, give us a buzz, and we shall organise it. And not a problem, I will send you a learning support form, and you can book a one-on-one call with us. Belinda, no problem at all. Glad you found it useful. You too, Julian. You're welcome, Sherilyn. No problem, Deborah. Glad you enjoyed. No problem, Julian. Yeah, everybody have a lovely evening, and I'll chat to you all soon.